Okay. I'll call this special meeting of the Resort Township Board to order. If you would take the roll, please.
Wheaton,
Here.
Covio,
Here.
Howard, here, Klingelsmith,
Here.
and Clerk Walsheimer's here. I was setting into work.
Good. Full board is here. So the reason I called you this meeting tonight is, I'm hoping that everybody has driven down Resort Pike and seen the devastation of the pine trees. So just like 2 days after the storm kind of ended, they were harvesting trees. It's called the Covert Preserve, which is way at the end of Resort Pike. And I called Little Traverse Conservancy, who owns that, and I said, how did you get these people here to harvest this? And he said, well, he goes, they're one of our companies that work for us. And I said, well, my Pioneer Trails was just up the road, looks like that, and needs, you know, that service. And he said, well, here's the guy's name, and you call him. So long story short, I met with him there, and after he's done with the Covert Preserve, and before he goes across from Suzanne's house, he will stop at Pioneer Trails and clean up our pine tree mess. He said that he would pay $30 a cord going rate for anything that's 5 inches and up, and 4 and 5 inches, they harvest it, they take it, but there's not a price for it. We will get, you know, these loggers, if you ever work with them, they just estimate it, and he said we would probably get somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 for them taking the wood and everything. And so my point of asking you here today is to authorize me to contract with Bywer Lumber from McBain to harvest Pioneer Trails. It was like 3.5 to 4 acres, and they don't clear cut it.
They just take what's fallen down me.
They take what's fallen, they take the ones that the tops are broke out of. And if there's like a single tree or two out in the middle, they'll take those. But if there's clumps of them, they leave those. And so he also told me 2 things. That one is the market is going to really quickly get saturated with this. And the other thing is that I think it was like 60 days or less, you had to harvest those and have them as usable wood. If it was longer than that, they had died too far. So, question?
No? I'll make a motion to approve those people.
Okay.
I support.
Okay. I can tell you if these people are good enough for Little Traverse Conservancy, they're good enough for us.
And who's the company again?
It's BIEWER Lumber.
Can you just make copies of that, just so that we'll have it?
I can, yes. I'll make copies of the one that I signed.
Okay, because then I'll just have it for when it comes in.
Yeah, and he said that they already had the Morford signed up, and they're the ones that did the Morford job last summer.
I
So
should give their name to Carol Hall, because the ones next to,
and you know, we talked about that, and he said that those, rather than breaking off, just kind of all fell over. wasn't quite interested in that, but
Really?
it'd be good to, he knows about
Cause they're
it.
longer pieces.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I guess, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same. You know, this work will probably, easily be done before our next meeting. You know, probably by the end of the month, you know, they'll finish the culverts and. So, one more question. May I have permission to contact 5H to chip parking lot around Pioneer Trail? There's probably, I'd estimate, like a couple of hours worth there. You know, just some big limbs and stuff and, you know,
That's fine up to a couple hours.
okay. Okay, you guys all right with that?
Sure.
Okay. And Jackie and I have started working on the trails, on Pioneer Trails, and we took our two Kubotas back there over the weekend, and it's like every 10 feet, there's either big or bigger limbs down trees, and we probably, I don't know, in an hour and a half, made like 3/4 of a mile back. Anyway, anything else?
No.
Okay, at 5:37, I'll adjourn the meeting. And thank you all for coming.